Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll open the meeting. I want to welcome each and every one of you to the Old Timers meeting. My name's John. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you very much. I'll open the meeting that the preamble of Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy. We neither endorse nor oppose any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And as always, this meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, that is our primary purpose. The Old Timers meeting, just a wee thing that I've done since I was asked by the committee, the rest of the committee, to chair this meeting when they decided to change it from a service meeting. There's 158 years of sobriety up here this afternoon, which is 57,670 days. It's amazing. A day at a time. A day at a time we stay sober. In the same way, staying away. The golden rule in Alcoholics Anonymous, you stay away for the first drink a day at a time. The days go into weeks, and the weeks into months, and the years, and time passes very, very quickly. Sobriety is to be enjoyed, it's not to be endured, and that's been my experience and the experience of millions of men and women across the world. Alcoholics Anonymous today has spread since 1935, when two men, with their own admission, were hopeless alcoholics. Very successful in their own private life, but when it came to the illness of alcoholism, up to 1935, if you suffered from this illness, this disease, you were doomed to, a mental institution or death. That's the way it was. But they two men found there was an answer, sharing with another alcoholic. They were able to arrest that illness for a day. They hadn't drank for that day. And if you've taken the time to read the big book in Alcoholics Anonymous, where Bill W. talks his own experience, it's amazing when you think of that. Two men, and yet today it's worldwide. Over in 150 countries, moving right across the continent of Africa. Alcoholics Anonymous, it's amazing. Just be speaking to another alcoholic. And that's what we're going to do today. The speakers up here today, it's just an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting that isn't any different. It's all one where you go in the world. We just share our experience with one another. And that's how the message. It's a programme of attraction rather than promotion. I remember the first meeting I ever went to, and it was way back a long time ago, and I went into a meeting in Glasgow on a Monday night. It was my second day off the drink, and I was in bad condition. And the man that night was celebrating 10 years sobriety, and the man that was chairing him was 18 years, and I'm sitting shaking at the front, I thought every alcoholic in the world had came to Glasgow that night. I know the day they don't stay there, but a lot of them do, but they're not in Glasgow. But that night I met so many nice people that's allowed me to stay sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, because they knew what I needed to hear, and I've never changed that winning formula. I've never searched anywhere outside Alcoholics Anonymous, and on a daily basis I've done the same thing, stayed away for a drink and tried my best for a day. And that's all Alcoholics Anonymous asks for us. They don't ask us to become saints or anything else. They know it's a day at a time for everything in here. You learn as time goes on. But I think we're going to take the no dues and fees, and then we'll get on with the meeting. Don't know if there's anybody there to take it. Tommy's there. Don't worry about it. Your name's good. All right, Tommy. Okay. Our first speaker this morning is my friend Mary from Liverpool, and Mary's not going to be standing here. She's going to just sit there and make herself comfortable and share with us for the next 20 minutes. And I just ask you to give Mary the best order and attention. Thanks very much, Mary.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mary and I'm an alcoholic. And I'm so grateful sitting here now. And I tell you one thing, I need that toilet as fast as anything. My knees are knocking. I can't stand because I've got arthritis. It comes with age, and that's the only reason why I'm sitting. I was born in Liverpool, down by the docks. My religion was Catholic, but I wasn't hard enough. I tried to be. I was in Liverpool till I was the age of 7. And then I moved to Kirby, a little town called Kirby, which is about 7 miles outside Liverpool. And I was always the child that needed love and attention. I was always crying. I was called the crier. My mama used to say, if you don't shut up crying, I'll give you a belt. And I'd start crying, I'd get another belt. I was brought up with a lot of violence, a lot of beatings, a lot of hidings. I always wanted to be loved and wanted and needed, and it never happened. I also, I didn't do very good at school. I was taking 2 short planks put together because I'd be going into school black and blue after hiding of one member of the family or whatever. But I also used to love going out and being in the fields, because where I lived in Kirby, they had a bit, it was a big farmer's field, and I used to love going in the fields and sit with the daisy chains and make daisy chains and all things like that. And I was like a feral. I wanted the freedom, but moving on to that, I can remember getting my very first drink, and that was a hot toddy. I'd had pneumonia when I was a child, and I got this hot toddy, and it was whiskey whatever, Jane, I don't know, can't remember, with hot milk and butter and sugar and hot water. And I remember that drink, and I remember that glow going down my body, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the feeling. My chest tingled, my stomach tingled, my hands tingled, and I loved that feeling. And that was a very young. And on a Sunday, my dad used to work in the Catholic club, and he used to bring bottles of Guinness. And on a Saturday, my mum used to bring bottles of lemonade, get bottles of lemonade. So we always had the Guinness shandy, and I used to love the Guinness shandy. So I've always loved the drink, and I've always, wanted to drink and needed it. And moving on in the years, I can remember my mum had a big bottle of whiskey at the side of the sideboard, and every so often he used to go and swig it. And then it was going down, and she said one day, who was been drinking the whiskey? And I wasn't going to tell her because I'd get a beating, you know what I mean? Anyway, one day I said to me, Mum, somebody's put perfume in that whiskey. So she said, it's you cow. So she got me and battered me for drinking the whiskey. She put the perfume in to find out who was drinking it, and that was about 14 or 15. Going into the pubs and clubs and all that. I had various jobs. I worked anything in the shoe shop, I worked in the butchers, I worked in the macro, I'd done all kinds of work, but all the time all I was thinking about was alcohol and oblivion, to obliviate the pain of life and the pain of the feelings. I started in a job in the macro in Kirby, and I fell in love with this guy, and he fell in love with me, and I absolutely thought the world of him. And the usual thing happens, I fell pregnant, and I had a little boy. And at 10 weeks old, this baby died of bronchial pneumonia, and it was horrendous. The feelings I had were terrible, but I also carried tremendous guilt over this child. Before he died, I can remember going out to the pub down the road, the off-licence, getting a bottle of sherry, and leaving a little 6-week-old baby in a 1-bedroom flat by himself. And I never thought the consequences of anything could happen. It's all I was thinking about was getting that bottle of sherry and getting home and getting that drink. And once I got home and got that drink, I was okay, not thinking about the baby. But when my son died, I was absolutely devastated. And you can't turn the clock back. I took him out in the cold. I took him out in the ice. I took him out in the fog. I don't know whether he'd have still been alive if I hadn't done that, but as far as I'm concerned today, it's God's will, and there's not a thing I can do. And when he died on the Thursday, and I was in the pub on the Thursday night in the Fantail pub in Kirby where I live. And when people feel sorry for you, oh, poor Mary, oh girl, have a bevy, you'll be all right, you're young, you can have more kids, and And I never stopped drinking from that day, alcoholically, till I come into Alcoholics Anonymous. And throughout the years of drinking, alcohol took everything off me. It took my family off me. It took my friends off me. I can remember going to my friends one day and knocking on the door, and the kid turned around and said, my mum said she's not in. You know what I mean? Absolutely devastated me. I went to another friend, and the kid said, my mum said, you're not but a bloody nuisance, that you're not coming here for any more drink. And, you know, I was just in the rock bottom, and I was coming further and further down. I wanted more and more drink. And then I was in the Grafton one night in Liverpool. It's a nightclub, famous nightclub, and you know, anything went. You could, no disrespect to Grandad or anybody, but you could grab a Grandad anytime you wanted, you know. And I can remember this guy coming up to me, and he looked at me and he said, how much do you charge? He was a tall, dark, handsome man, and I said, to you, love, a fiver. Well, I sold my body for £5, and I felt disgusted with myself. I felt dirty. I felt filthy. I went home. I got a bath. I scrubbed myself. I felt the most filthiest person I'd ever walked the earth. But when I had that fiver, that was my next drink. And that's all I thought about, was getting that drink and drink and more drink. And I wasn't just thinking about that drink then, I was thinking about the drink at the Christmas and the Easters and all the weddings that I never got invited to and all that, you know. I saw my body a few more times. And I didn't want to do it, but you know, that's what I did to get it. And I just a rock bottom. I wanted to die. All I used to say is, why me? And I can remember ringing my doctors up, going to my doctors, and getting some tablets off him. And I'm here for alcoholism, not tablets, but he gave me these tablets, and I can remember getting a bottle of sherry and sitting in my little one-bedroom flat with nobody. All the doors shut in my face. My family didn't want to know. And I can remember just taking the tablets, and I was taking the tablets and saying, when I'm gone, they won't care. So I was having a swig of the booze and the tablets, swigging the booze and the tablets. Well, I couldn't keep still for days because they were vitamin tablets, so I never died, and I'm still alive. And then I tried again another time to take some tablets again, and other things, and then I can remember thinking the very, very last time I wanted to die, and I went down to the Pierhead in Liverpool, which is the River Mersey, and I had half a bottle of booze, half a bottle of whiskey, and I thought, I'm going to kill myself, throw myself in the water, drink my whiskey, throw myself in the water. And I was sitting there, and about 11:15 in the night time, I'd finished my whiskey, and I went to throw myself in, and I thought, it's no good throwing yourself in, Mary, because you're a good swimmer. You know, and then just something said to me, just get home, get on the last bus. Well, the last bus was the 93 to Kirby, and I went home to my flat, and I still wanted to stop drinking, but I couldn't. And anyway, I cried out this night, because I'd been to all the clubs in Liverpool, I'd been all to the dives, and some of the dives, they were absolutely horrendous, you know, and anybody in Liverpool remembers the Variety Club, and anything went, you know, you slipped on the floor, and, you know, Parliament Street, and, you know, the Grafton, the She Club, Mr. Pickwick's, the other place and all that. But I didn't want to be there anymore. I wanted to live a decent life. And I cried out, and I rang my doctor up, and he was on holiday. And they told me to ring the Samaritans, and I rang the Samaritans, and a lovely lady by the name of Pat answered the phone. And she said, have you got a problem with your drink? And I said, yeah. And she was talking about dirty curtains. And I said, oh, my curtains are filthy. My house is filthy. I've got fleas. I had nits in my head. I had fleas on my body. You know what I mean? I had one glass in my glasses, and I thought it was God's gift to me, and you should have seen the state of me. But anyway, 2 guys come around to my house within half an hour, and I knew them, and I drank with them, and one of them was Kirby Mick, and the other one was Kirby Joe. And Mick said, are you Queen, you're all right? I said, no, Mick, I want to stop drinking, but I can't. And I said, but before that, I said, I know you, but I can't remember you. And he said, Mick so-and-so. And he was my next door neighbour, but 2 from years ago when I was a kid. And he changed. The last time I seen Mick was in the Pink Parrot. He was pissed, I was pissed. He was buying the ale, and I was drinking it, and I was no fool. And he's asked me, did I want to stop drinking? And I said, I do, but I can't, and I don't know how to. Anyway, they asked me to go to a meeting, and I said yeah. So he brought a lady around the next day, Kirby Vera, lovely lady, lovely. And she started saying about staying away from the first drink and, and sharing with me. And I thought, I've PISS more against the wall. I've been told not to swear, I've pissed more, sorry. I've PIS more against the wall than what you've drank. But anyway, I went to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I had no clues. I robbed my sister's shoes, took them around and swapped them with my friend. I got a dress off my best friend, and I had smoky grey tights with a sky blue dress with my glasses going up Bow Street to the May meeting. And I went flying, and all my tights were all ripped, and I walked in, and this lovely lady said to me, "What's your name?" And I said, "Mary." She said, "My name's Nora." And then she started talking to me, and she said, "Mary," she said, "you can get off the stop anywhere you want." She said, "Life is like a journey," very posh, but she's a beautiful person. "You can get off the train anywhere you want to." And I thought, is she crackers or what? And then she was saying, that you'll save money. And I thought, I hope she's got a few bob. I'll tap her at the end of the meeting for a few bob for a bevy. Anyway, I listened to the guy who was sharing, and there was a guy named Little Bob. And he was saying about having to have a drink to get a drink. And I think, yeah, I know what you're talking about. And then he was talking about seeing Mr. Huey in the morning. And there's nothing worse than when you're sitting on, you get out of bed and you're vomiting and you're retching and you're hooked over the toilet. And then you've got the drink. And I got identification at my first meeting. And that was on a Wednesday night in Slater Street. And I was going to meetings and I was loving it. And then I thought, I'm too young to be an alcoholic. And if you think I'm staying here with you lot for the rest of my life, you've got another thing coming. So off I went. I was only sober about 2 weeks, and off I went and I drank. But fortunate for me, I was to be dried out by a Dr. Cook in the Northern Hospital, and I've never looked back. From that day to this, I was 5 weeks sober. And I come up here, Kirby Mick said, "We've got a chat, a girl, you coming up to Dumfries?" And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Just come, you're coming." And we come up and we stayed in a little bed and breakfast down the road in Mrs. Cott's, it was, in Lovers Lane. And it was lovely. And I walked into Laban Hall, and that was 40 years ago. And on the 31st of August, I had my last drink. Thank you. I walked in there, and there was 2 guys there talking, and one of them was Bike Terry, and I don't know whether anybody else remembers Trevor, the Australian guy. And Trevor had a caravan camped outside Laban Hall, and he was making cups of tea, and he said, "Come and have a cup of tea." And Bike Terry was saying to me, "Mary, stay away from the first drink and things will get good." And I thought, I believe these guys, because I knew they weren't after my body, and that's the only value that I had at the time. And they were lovely with me. And I went home, and then I come back to Dumfries the next year. And in the meantime, I'd done a lot of geographical escapes because I couldn't live with Mary. I couldn't live with the guilt that I had. I couldn't live with the stuff that I was going through in my life, the guilt over my son, the things I'd done. And I met a lot of friends in Scotland that I was coming up and down to. And I went to a guy by the name of Barry from Cranhill, and I met Jimmy the One. And Jimmy said to me, "Mary, you keep coming back." I went down to his little flat. I don't remember where he lives, and he said, "Keep coming back, hen." He said, "Life will get better." And I believed him as well, and I did. And I was coming to meetings, staying away from the first drink, and life was getting better. I come up to Scotland again, to Dumfries again, and I met my husband. I met Eddie. And then the next year we kind of got together and all that, and he married a wonderful English woman, and I married a wonderful Scotsman. Now, 2 cultures with me and Eddie. I mean, I'm a tyrant anyway. I was horrendous. We had a fabulous marriage. We were always arguing, and that's what makes a good marriage, if you argue all the time, because you sort your problems out. And he told me one day, he said, "Hen, I want me dinner on the table when I come home from work." I said, "Yes, love, any time." And I thought, up yours, no chance. He come in from work and his dinner was on the table. There was a pork chop, carrots, onions and potatoes and applesauce and oxos. And I said, your dinner's on the table. And he come in, he said, it's not cooked. I said, well, you wanted your dinner on the table, cook it yourself. And that's the kind of relationship we had, because we were absolutely mad. But I loved him dearly. Within the first year of my marriage, I lost 3 children, I had 3 miscarriages, and I was devastated. I didn't know how to cope, and I didn't know what to do. And I was crying all the time, but I stayed away from the first drink, and I kept on coming to meetings. I kept on ringing my sponsor. I kept doing what was right and working the steps to the best of my ability. I had a little boy, Andrew, and then I had a little girl, Shauna, and then I lost another child. Life was good, even though I'd gone through all my grief. I'd lost my mother as well in the fellowship, but I was staying sober. Hey, if you're not giving me, I thought you would give me the 2 minutes then. I was staying sober and I was working the programme to the best of my ability. Fuck off. I was working the programme to the best of my ability, and the thing is, I kept on coming back to Alcoholics Anonymous, where I was always alone. And when I walked in, and it's got in the front, you're no longer alone. If there's anybody in this room today and they're struggling and you think you can't make it, you can. You get off your backside, you ring your sponsor, you do the steps, you keep coming to meetings, and most of all, you pick up the phone, because I had telephonitis. I used to have phone bills of £40 40 years ago. Horrendous, nuts. But, I'm sitting here today. I was sitting down there yesterday and John come up to me and he shook my hand and I said, "Aye," and he said, "There's an old timers tomorrow, would you like to share?" And I said, "I can't say no." But I've got today beyond my wildest dreams. I've got so many lovely friends where the doors always used to shut. That song, "You can bring Sue, she's a damn nice girl, but don't bring Lulu. You can bring anybody, but don't bring our Mary." Today the doors are open everywhere for me. I've got a fabulous, fabulous network of friends. I've got all my family back. I've been to weddings. I've been to posh weddings within the family, military weddings, police weddings, everything. So today I'm sitting here and I'm so grateful, and thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Oh, thank Mary. It was excellent. What I could catch, I'm deaf, and Mary's speaking out is hard enough, but I caught enough. I heard her saying I had to finish the whiskey, and I heard her talking about her life today, how she, in Alcoholics Anonymous, how her life was put together. And I'll thank Mary. She spoke of things that suggested we do always, I say, the golden rule, and then meetings on a regular basis, no missing meetings for any reason, real or imaginary. And she spoke about a sponsor, and I'm not going to encroach on anybody's time up here today, I can assure you, but a sponsor for an alcoholic is a very, very important thing. Somebody you know and you can trust, and you just feel at ease with them. And I had a sponsor, he was well known in the East End of Glasgow. A lot of Glasgow people sitting in here, they knew him. Everybody knew John, Waiter John. He spoke here. He says he spoke everywhere but the toilet. And here he spoke the service meetings, everything. He was marvellous. And this just kind of summed him, summed this story. I tell it, and every time I think of it. John was a widower and he lived on his own. And every week he used to come over to my house. And my wife, she used to make his dinner, and John was he could tell a story and he could elaborate and make you laugh. And my wife loved him coming over, and she fussed over him, And this day, you're no wrong, you're never wrong all the time. But this day, my wife and I get into an argument, and John took my wife's part. Oh, I wasn't pleased. And we went to the meeting in Bellsill, and when the meeting finished, into the car, and we're heading over to Easterhouse. He had a wee cigarette, and I hardly said a word. I was seething. And we got up to where he stayed in Easterhouse. He says, "What's wrong with you, sonny boy?" I said, "Well, see, you never argue with your sponsor, didn't you know?" But I decided I was in the mood. I says, "See the day that argument in my house?" He says, "Aye." I says, "I wasn't wrong." He says, "No, you weren't." I says, but you agreed with Helen. He says, when you can cook like Helen, I'll agree with you. I learned for then, let me assure you. I never got into any more debates with him. He was the sponsor, and I just suggested, any man that can come away with a statement like that, you've got to listen to him. He's brilliant. My next speaker is Brendan. On you go.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Brendan. I'm an alcoholic. Great to be here. A little bit panicked. I was waiting for my pipers to turn up here, to pipe us up here. So a little bit disappointed we wouldn't get our pipers. But there you go. But honestly, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be asked to do a share anywhere and to be a part of this great fellowship and to give a small little bit back. And I would have had a shot on actually, and so I was ready to change. We was out sightseeing in Gretna Green and lovely, beautiful spots, and got carried away with the time. I was a mad panic to get back with Ian driving at 90 miles an hour, but we done it. But I didn't get time to change, and it doesn't really matter. You're not here to look at my clothes. I just celebrated my 40th year birthday this 15th of May 1978 was my... Thank you. You've done that. And I was kind of saying along, coming along in the car, we were kind of talking about times and stuff like that. And I meant it when I said it. Honestly, I'd love to go back to when I was about 5 years in. That big excitement, that big journey, that little gang that used to run around, and just magical, magical times. I still love it today, but in a different way, you know. A bit further down the line, a bit older, and gone through a few medical stuff and that, like, you know. So be careful what you ask me. I've been a long timer, like, I'm an old timer, that you get all that goes with it as well, like, you know. But I wouldn't trade one day of what I have, like, for anything I used to have in the past of my drinking. And I'm blessed to have found this fellowship. My first meeting was age 21, and thankfully I got sober age 22, up to today. And the setting was right. I heard this used to be for mental people around this area, this building and what have you, the grounds. And my first meeting was in the psychiatric prison. So it's gone full circle for me, I think. And the surrounding things were about right for the state of my head. Like, I was what they would class today as a disturbed child. They got spectrums for today. Like, they wouldn't have had a scale to measure mine, I don't think, back in the days. I was just completely lost as a youngster. I often look back, was there reasons for this, like, you know, and of course there was reasons, not for my alcoholism, but for the type of person I became. I was very, very volatile. I was up in the air about anything, very, very angry, very, very shut down, very shy, very awkward. And that awkwardness will come out in anger, and this is really to follow me through my drinking. And I won't give a blow-for-blow account. And I kind of think of the family. I come from a large family. There was 14 of us children, with an alcoholic father, a very violent man, a very disturbed man, and we witnessed a lot that kids witness in alcoholic homes. Ours wasn't unique by any stretch of the imagination. But there was stuff there, as a young child, you just wouldn't be able to ingest, you know, you wouldn't make sense of it, like, you know, and you couldn't do nothing about it. You were kind of in a powerless situation. That kind of was the first part of it. Then we had a sister drowned at about age 7, and who was looking after, who was supposed to be doing this and doing that, and that seriously impacted in the family, like, you know, we all got a bit lost from there on in, it seems, and I don't look for reasons for my alcoholism. I am what I am today, and I'm 100% accepting of that fact. But I moved on a little bit and ran a bit wild, and at age 13, I have a little potted history. At 13 and a half, they sent me to a pro school for 2 years. At 16, to prison for 6 months. At just coming up 17, prison for 6 months. 18, prison for 60 days. 18 and a half, prison for 12 months. And at 19, prison for 2 years, the psychiatric prison. And that was the disturbed Brendan. That's what happened. That's my alcoholism. That happened for me. And people might be thinking, geez, when did you ever drink? And that was the net result of my drinking. That's what I had become like. And deep within that, there was a lovely young lad. And people's opinion of me, like, you know, you have a niceness about you, like, you know, you're a lovely person. And I don't say to blow my own trumpet, obviously, but this is people just give you an idea of the contrast between the disturbed child, and there was something there what bringing out, like, you know, and people tried to bring this out, and there was some beautiful, beautiful nuns who would kind of look after me at school and things like that, and I would carry their bag up to the convent after, and they kind of noticed that I needed maybe a bit of special attention. And there was a great fondness for all that as well, and I felt, I felt good about these people around me, and then later on, when I went to my first meeting inside in prison, I knew there was something there for me. I didn't quite know what alcoholism was I too young? There was none of that stuff going on, I didn't know about the age or what actually was an alcoholic. And these lovely people came in and sponsored the prison, and they came in and just told their stories, really. There was some lovely people. There was one chap there, he had a pretty horrific story, and I didn't need like-for-like identification. There was none of that going on. But he'd killed his wife in a blackout in a pretty horrendous, gruesome way, and that kind of left an impact on me, how far you can actually lose it when you're out of control, when that red mist descends and you just don't know what you're doing for about 10, 15, 20 seconds. A lot of damage is done in between, and a lot of people inside in prisons for that today, stuff that just didn't get time to focus or think about anything or think about consequences. Because that sickness is there, that driving force of sickness. And anyway, I listened to these people came in, and there was lovely people who had never been in prison before. They were probably bank managers, solicitors, whatever they were, well-dressed people. And I got as much from these people as I did for the lads who had been doing time as well, and that was the start of my journey. I'll jump on ahead a little bit rather than get bogged down in the story. And I went to meetings inside there for about 6 months, got released eventually and came out, and that fear was back again. I didn't know how to, if anyone's been in prison, we'll know that everything's regulated. When to get up, when to go to bed, when to eat, when to do whatever sort of a thing. And there was a kind of a safety there, and although I would rebel against it, and there was a safe feeling there, that I would have liked people to tell me what to do for the rest of my life, because I didn't know what to do, And this feeling as well that I wanted to do something in my life was always there. And I would pray an awful lot. I never lost that prayer, and I was always there. And there never seemed to be any answers, never seemed to be any results for it, But I'd done it nonetheless because I didn't know what else to do. And I got released eventually, and the barriers are up again. AA is going to be different outside the prison. In there it's different. You're just in the cell and people come in and you talk and that. But I thought these people outside might be a bit different, and that inferiority was there, that not being able to communicate, the shyness, the awkwardness, that was still within me, and eventually I got to my first meeting, and the straw that broke the camel's back for me really was a walk. I was working 28 miles from home, I think, maybe 28, 30 miles, whatever it was. And the circumstances of the work at that time, get your money at the end of the day, spend it in the pub, and you'd maybe sleep somewhere rough overnight, I don't make this a hard look story. This is just as it's coming to my head. And the first night I done, the second night subby never came out, gave us no money. I walked from Guildford to Feltham, where I lived at the time. And it was the most fantastic, looking back now, it was the most fantastic walk I ever had, because I cried like a baby, absolutely beaten to a pulp. It's that time when people are concerned about all sorts of things, I would imagine, and I was just so sick of my existence, absolutely sick to the pit of my stomach of my existence, and didn't know what to do. And got home eventually. My aunt, who had great knowledge of this condition, her common law husband, and I lived in the same house. The poor man was in and out of treatment centres 25, 30 times, brain damaged, and he died on the streets with a carry-out, and that was his legacy. But she made the call, someone came and seen me, tried to paint this picture of what AA was like and all this again outside, and we had a bit of a chat, and I went to my first meeting, and there was something there again, and I was there under sufferance. At 22 years of age, you're kind of thinking, Jesus, this for the rest of my life, and you'd be counting the life fittings and counting the bricks and second guessing who was going to, and she'll go on for 20 minutes and he'll take a half hour at least, and that kind of boredom and looking at the clock all the time, not feeling part of it, and people didn't suggest it. Maybe one meeting a week isn't, you need to be doing a bit more. Maybe go to a step meeting, and then that's where it all started for me, at the step meetings, I had a program, I had something to focus on and something to work with. And from there on in, I can honestly just look back and say, from the first couple of years, I've more or less had this program, and been a long time, all I've done is stick with that program ever since. There's not rocket science, as they say, I don't mean to say that to be flippant. Been a lot of battles in between, of course there has. There've been a lot of times of anger and I've been kicking doors, but thankfully physically since the day I come in, never had to harm another person, like, you know, and that's not a statement maybe people should be making, like, you know, people shouldn't be doing that anyway, but this is part of who I was, like, you know, any problem, like, let's fight about it, let's talk, like, we don't talk about it, we fight about it, like, you know, and we would keep going till you said I was right, and then it was over, like, I'd give up then, like, you know. But that gentleness that was with me, like, it kind of stayed with me all through my life. I was getting a lot of situations with violence and struggles and all that sort of a thing, like, you know, there was something inside, like, you know, just wanting to burst out, like, you know, that there was something worth hanging on to, like, you know. And eventually when the penny dropped and I got to those meetings, it's not to doing the steps, that's when it made sense. And the seismic change that's talked about, like, it happened to me, like, you know, that I had this change. And if anyone was to ask me, what's the greatest thing that's happened since you've come in? Of course, I've got married to a lovely woman, but the ability to change from what I was to what I am today, like, you know. And today, Brendan's a lovely person. Brendan's a nice bloke. Brendan loves singing. Brendan loves raising his family, running a business as we have done. All the good stuff in life that I never would have had. I've never been back to prison since, other than to carry the message in, like, you know. And there's the power of a fantastic fellowship, like. No one else could have done that for me. I had psychiatrists and psychologists and all sorts of people all involved in my life all the way through, and they couldn't put a dent in me, they couldn't touch me, like, you know, whatever it was, that it just didn't make sense. And I know today why, like, because they didn't have what I had, like, you know, they didn't have the same feelings. It was all done from theory and from books and that, like. You have to experience who I am or what I feel to be able to help me. And I feel that today with other people. You know, I'm at meetings, and the first thing I'll do, if there's a new face there, like, and we should all do this anyway, I know, but I'm making sure I go over and say hello to them people, like. And I think as a fellowship, I'm not going on the soapbox here, we're going to change. In my area anyway, seems to be changing that way, like, it seems to be everyone's clicking together, and a new face comes in, and you'd say, did you go and say, no, didn't know they were, didn't even notice them, sort of a thing. And that's what's missing, like, you know. I think back to the lovely people who nurtured me when I come in, like, and that's the right word to use, like, they nurtured me, they hung on to me, they would give me Sunday dinners. There was a single man then, they would give me Sunday dinners, like, you know, they made a lot of me, like, they took me on face value, they would have heard my story, they would have heard of my circumstances, what I was capable of doing and what have you, but they accepted. And these lovely people, they were miles apart in our social lives, I would imagine. I'm not saying they were better or worse than me. We were just different people, like, you know. They moved in different circles, honest lives, you know, solicitors again, bank managers maybe, civil servants, them type of people. These lovely people would give me the run of their house, like, you know. And I've never forgotten that trust that was put in me, like, and I never, thank God, never ever betrayed that trust either. But they kind of held on to me, and they would sit me in cars after meetings. And I'm kind of going down memory lane now, like, you know, and I've never forgotten that. The most fantastic thing that someone done for me early recovery, after about a year, I had a breakup of a relationship, and it was Christmas time, and between the jigs and the reels anyway, that I broke up with this girl Christmas Eve. The letter was on the mantelpiece. I knew what to say before I even opened it, because I was heading that way. And these lovely people invited me around to their house for Christmas dinner, like, you know, and you wouldn't normally do that. You think the last person you want around your Christmas table is someone who's just broken up with someone, like, with a miserable face, spoiling your Christmas, like, you know. But they'd done it, like, and I've never forgotten that. As I said, that's almost 40 years ago. And I'll finish on saying, like, many, many great things have happened to me. I would go on here forever, like, I'm sure most of us can, like, or all of us, about the great stuff that has happened. And one of the big things that happened when I first came in, geez, I'm ever going to meet a girl, because I'm so shy, I can't go to dances, I can't do this, I can't do that. My wife's helped me this weekend. We're 39 years married next month. You know, how about that? You know, from someone's in a psychiatric prison with all sorts of mental illnesses, you know, we've forged them out. We've raised a family. We've had 3 lovely boys, and they're getting on with their lives. There's none of them in any fellowships. One went to one meeting of NA and that, and he thought it wasn't for him, and thank God he's back on the straight and narrow. So we've had the battles, and the biggest one for me is, well, latterly I've had a few health scares, like, you know, and I didn't know how bad they were and how big I had them and how long I had to live, it seemed, at one point, like, you know, and the big C that a lot of us get, and another old-timers disease, it seems to be, like, you know, I have a lot of it at the moment. A lot of my friends, bless them. And I've had to go through it, like, you know, and it didn't come easy. I don't know if I get 2 minutes yet, have I? Sorry, I'll just finish up and saying that I've got the all clear and all that, like, so I've gone on with life, and I would be here forever again saying what a great life it's given me, like, you know, but to be over that and to have overcome it, I would never have done it without this fellowship. I really would. I crumbled for a couple of months and it was a dark place, but I'm back out of that today, like, and I've come to enjoy these lovely conventions. We do a lot of conventions. We do the world conventions. AA is a very big place for me, like, you know, that I love all that it allows me to do, and we are not a glum lot and that stuff that I read, like, you know, that this is a fantastic, and if you are young, I'll finish on that, definitely. If you are young and you think, fuck this for the rest of my life, how blessed you will be, honestly. Great to be here. Thank you. Thanks, man. Pleasure.
Well, thank Brendan very much for sharing with us, and I enjoyed what he said, and I can identify with quite a lot. He said something there about psychiatrists and doctors and analysts, and the doctor's opinion in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and Dr. Silkworth says this phenomenon of craving is only found in this type of abnormal drinker, the alcoholic. And even in that man who was the foremost authority in alcoholism at that time, he was in despair at times. And he says somewhere, I can't remember word for word, whatever it is you have, hold on to it. And that's what it was. It was sharing with another alcoholic. My family, like Brendan's family, they loved me. They would have done anything. My mother especially, to save her son, that's what she said. Money will not be a problem. It didn't help. My family sent me away, and I was looked after, and I come back, and I was feeling that well. I went for a drink, and it started again. But I made a phone call on the 23rd of March, 1980, and I spoke to another member of Alcoholics Anonymous for the first time. And as Brendan says, that was the answer. Sharing with another. I never got any rows. Nobody told me off, told me to behave myself, pull myself together. Why are you doing these? He just says, I know exactly how you're feeling. But he said something that night that came true. He says, I'll take you to a place tonight. He says, you never need to drink again. And that's what happened. I sometimes think about that. Quite often. What happened? I just went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I met a lot of people that I really didn't know, and they spoke about their life in alcoholism. And Bill Wilson speaks about his own experience of complete God consciousness. I believe somewhere along the line I had a spiritual awakening. It would take too long to get into that. But it says for most of us it will be of the educational variety as we see ourselves and other people see us starting to get better, feel better. As long as we keep coming, as Brendan said, to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's the answer. Staying away for a drink a day at a time and attend meetings. Stay close to the people that you meet in Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's the day is one of the, it's been a privilege the day. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And put the icing on the cake, I met my friend Joe. I met Joe very many years ago. And the day I bumped into him out there, and I says to him, would you like to share a day? And there wasn't a problem. And that's the way it's always been for him, and I know that. So again, I would ask you to give the best round of applause.
Good evening, or good afternoon. My name's Joe, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm known as Cobbler Joe, and I'll say right away, I've saved more souls than Billy Graham. That's nice to laugh, isn't it? It's good, because my mum didn't he? My mum couldn't he? That's the difference. I remember when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and the first thing that struck me was the fact that they said, keep it simple. That stuck with me very, very, because I needed something simple, because I was so screwed up. I had, everything was going wrong. It's as simple as that. But I'll go back a wee bit. I come from East End, and John here he says, I asked, he didn't he? He told. That's his duty. But he asked me to do this, and one of the first things I learned in AA was, if he asks you, you never say no. There might be a reason sometimes that you can't, but you never say no. So, as from that, as I say, I come from East End, and I think really my drinking wasn't too much of a bother. I think it was about 18, 19 or so when I started drinking. But it was I remember there was a wee pub in Tollcross, and it was called the Strathspey. And I went in there, a guy says, it's great. He says, see the beer in here, it's off the wood, meaning it's out of a barrel. And I spat it back out. I says, "Oof, no one of you say that, that's what it tastes like, wood." But anyway, going on a couple of years, and I was serving my time as a shoemaker with Saxon, and all the cobblers and such like in the city of Glasgow all met in the Bay Horse at that time, up in West Nile Street. And I went in there, and this guy said to me, "What you wanting, son?" I says, "Give me one of the wee goldies." I'd heard my brothers talking about goldies, you know. I fell in love. I've had two loves in my life. I've still got one, my wife. The other one was whiskey. I just couldn't stop drinking it. I loved it. I remember a guy in AA turning around and saying to me, he says, "See this drink, I hate it." I says, "That's not how I'm here. I'm here because I love it." I says, "But the difference is, I didn't like what it was doing to me." Because I heard Brendan saying there about the family. I heard Mary talking about the family. I've heard the other speaking. That's what counts to me. I've got two families. You're one of them. And there was a wee lassie just walked in here, and she gave me a big kick, and she gave John a big kick here earlier on, because she says, "Hello, I'm talking about Sinead." She just sat down there. She made for day, because she thought she knew us, and I don't think any of us knew her, did we, John? No. But these are the special things that happen in Alcoholics Anonymous. When you walk in, I remember I went into the Shelton meeting one night, and this young lad came up and he said to me, he says, "Hey, how you doing?" He says, "Hey, are you all right?" He says, you don't look too happy." And I said, "I'm okay." And another AA member goes, "Do you know who that is?" "That's Cobbler Joe." I says, "I'm no different from anybody else. I'm a day sober, the same as everybody else." Okay, it mounts up and it becomes years, right? That's fine. But the most important thing we should never forget, you've only got this gift for one day. My drinking really came to a head. I had been in the army, and when I was in the army, it was a licence to kill. I mean, I was the camp snob, as they call it. That's the camp cobbler. So I made a lot of coppers in the side, and drinking was nothing to me, and I had nobody to answer to or anything. And when I came out of the army, I got married when I was in the army, and I must tell you this because this is quite funny. When I was in the army, we were a year in the army, and I was getting married. So I came home on a Thursday, and my brother, God rest him, was my best man. And, well, this is the old timers meeting, so you'll all remember Raymond McCrudden. I can use his name now. Well, Raymond had a pub down in the centre of the city called the Eagle Inn. And my brother and I went to collect the dress suits on the Friday, and we went into the Eagle Inn just for a wee refreshment. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I said to my brother, I said, "James," I says, "where's the suits? We better get them laid out." Oh, he says, "Oh, Jesus." He says, "Joseph, I've left them in there." I've left him in the Eagle Inn. I says, what? So I had to go through all the different phone numbers and that, and I got the phone for Raymond, and he says, oh, I'm not coming out. I said, Raymond, I said, I'm getting married at 9 o'clock. I said, you need to? I says, right, I'll come in then. He says, but you'll hear from me. I says, aye, okay. So he came in and he opened up the Eagle Inn, and we got the two cases. And my brother wasn't slow, you know.